Greetings everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce Team Bangladesh. I am Aadrito. This is Ifshita, Azrin, Anika, Faraz and Esfar. For question 1, we are moving on to the market equilibrium for smartphones in 2021. As we can see, there is an increase in demand for this year, and however, there is a decrease in its supply due to production constraints and supply chain problems. This can see that as a result, the price of the phones will increase, and in the short run, the supply will become inelastic due to this being a newer technology. And a lot of small firms have to leave this industry due to patents and increased cost of shipment and the cost of research and development.
Question 2. The characteristics of oligopoly and the feasibility of forming a cartel. So the oligopoly is a market structure where the total supply of an output is concentrated within the hands of few firms. The characteristics of oligopoly are there is a high degree of market concentration, they are price makers, and the decisions are interdependent since they take into account the market strategy of their close rivals. There's price rigidity due to the uncertainty risk over price competition, and high barriers to entry and exit due to economies of scale and higher sunk cost. So here we can see the diagram of cartel. There is abnormal profit shown by the rectangle area, and the green area, triangle area shows the deadweight welfare loss due to lower optimal output. So why the cartel cannot be formed? So it cannot be formed because of antitrust laws and the altercations over the divisions of profits between Apple and Google, entrance of small firms, and firms driven by self-interest. As we can see in the quadrant D, the firms are driven by self-interest, so they are unable to maximize joint profit, and here they are having lower profit as shown by the Nash equilibrium. So, but still the cartel can be formed if there is need for that strategy, since if a firm breaks the commitment, then other firms will also follow suit, and there are clear penalties for cheating in the cartel.
So problem 3, third degree price discrimination. Third degree price discrimination occurs when companies charge different prices for different products. Different consumers have different price elasticity of demand, and depending on that, firms like Apple can choose to fix their prices. So what Apple does is basically they characterize their markets into two different parts: inelastic submarket in the Asia Pacific region and elastic submarket in Africa and South American continent. So for the market where there is inelastic demand, they charge higher prices because it gives them higher abnormal profits, which is equal to area ABCD as you can see in the graph. However, for elastic demand, they do not charge as much high prices because it does not give them high profits. As a result, they will decrease the price in order to increase the revenue. So what are the effects of price discrimination? Well, Apple can increase their total revenue as consumer surplus is being transferred to producer surplus. They can also use that in research and development in order to get new products for the consumers. However, their cost will rise at some point because they will have to carry out administration in order to know what price to charge for which type of market, and consumers might end up paying higher prices for the same product, so price might be greater than marginal cost. And in order to carry out price mechanism, arbitrage must be prevented. That arbitrage can occur if some people buy the product at a lower price and sell them at a higher price in the same market. That's why, by saying that, I would like to end my speech.
Moving on to the problems that we've identified, the companies will need to acquire a standard essential patents in order to produce 5G devices. The new entrants will also need to be incentivized as they have a high barrier to entry into this industry. And the company will have to resolve the supply chain issues that come with producing during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we will move on to the solutions.
Thank you. So, previously it was mentioned that one of the problems we identified was the supply chain. Now, we would go into how it has been disrupted. The first is, due to the global pandemic, the demand for smartphones has weakened. It has created, for producers of smartphones, it has created an uncertainty in obtaining raw materials. It has impacted their ability to ship components between countries and receive products in time due to logistical difficulties. Lastly, workers cannot go to factories to produce because of regulations differing in countries, and ports being closed and open, again depending on the restrictions of the countries, all of which has affected shipping. Now, we talk about problems, so what are the solutions? What can we do to resolve this? The first is that companies or smartphone manufacturers should hold safety stocks. These are stocks which are stocks made in excess, which the company can sell if any part of the production closes down, to make sure that there is an equilibrium and that demand and supply are in balance. Number two, they can redeploy part of the manufacturing to less risk areas where the pandemic isn't the highest yet. Thirdly, they can diversify, which they can do in the long run. We do not have any idea how long this pandemic will be, but if they can diversify their supply base, they can avoid centralizing. Number four, they can consider having a trade-off. They can consider not imposing too much importance on variety and instead maintaining the supply chain. And lastly, to talk about shipping, if countries can come to an agreement to keep ports open, and if this won't, the shipping will be resolved. Next slide. Next slide. Now, what happens if all these policies are implemented? We've shown in the graph. The aggregate supply of phone production will move from AS1 to AS2. The output will increase from Y1 to Y2, and the price will fall. Now I'll be passing on.
Moving on to solution number 2, which is reducing corporate taxes to incentivize new entrants and investments. As we know, people respond to incentives which governments can use by reducing the tax, and that would encourage new entrants into the market and also resulting in increased competition, which would reduce the prices in the market as the market supply increases. Increased numbers of sellers in the oligopolistic market, which is the smartphone industry, makes the oligopolistic market closer to a competitive market and thus increases efficiency as prices draw closer to marginal cost. And then we go to low taxes encourages higher retained profits and reinvestment into the market, which will encourage increase in research and development and also ensure dynamic efficiency in the long run. We know that consumers enjoy lower prices, better quality of smartphones, and increased variety due to product differentiation and their value of dollar rises. Developing countries benefit more due to increased investments than developed countries due to the catch-up effect. Therefore, developing countries are also encouraged to reduce the corporate taxes as they can enjoy higher economic growth. However, private firms have no incentives to expand in rural and hard-to-supply areas. Thus, what the government can do is they may use public funding to increase the availability and improve 5G infrastructure in such areas, which helps the smartphone firms to expand as the demand increases and also exploit economies of scale. Next one. Here we can see the market for smartphones as due to new entrants in the market, supply increases and shifts to the right. That reduces the price and increases the quantity traded. Here we see the economy in the long run, which increases the long run supply curve and thus increases the output in the market, output in the industry at a reduction of price level due to technological advancement. Here we can see the diminishing returns from capital investment, which illustrates that low-income country can benefit from higher return from investment, whereas high-income country face the opposite. Thank you.
So, as my colleague Aadrito spoke about one of the problems, which is standard essential patents. Now that arises a problem because to obtain standard essential patents, companies need to spend thousands of dollars, and that comes with a cost, and that cost is eventually passed on to the consumers. As a US News study has found out that consumers spend over 50% of their extra spendings on smartphones, so they wouldn't want to spend more on smartphones. So what we suggest the smartphone companies can do is that they can come to agreement that to work on research and development together. So what it would allow is that we would see on the next page. So if smartphone companies come together and invest together in R&D, so they will be able to enjoy external economies of scale and increasing returns as shown in this diagram. So thus they will be able to pass on lower prices to the consumers, as the cost of R&D will be shared among the top firms participating in R&D. Next slide. So we can see from this chart that the use of 5G is going to rapidly increase till the year 2024, as 5G is going to play a major role in the fourth industrial revolution. Thus smartphone companies must come together and solve these problems. Next slide.
However, we must remember that not all firms can spend on research and development, and research and development also includes high amount of sunk costs which cannot be recovered. Moreover, if the government decreases taxation, then it will decrease public saving, and due to the crowding out effect, interest rates may rise, and if the effect of interest rate rise is greater, then investments will eventually fall. Policymakers must keep all these factors in mind and make their decisions. Saying that, I would like to end our presentation. Thank you all for watching.